Hi, this is Deborah Weeks. I'm here at Makeup Designory Burbank doing the Mud Talks in association with Makeup Artist Magazine. I'm so excited for this. I've wanted to get these two together. It's been literally years. Nix Herrera, Chloe Sens, two of my favourite makeup artists. I've known you both for a long time now, right? Yeah. I knew you before you were in the union.
Yeah.
And I saw you go through that, which was an incredible... So just quickly, what is it like being in the union? What's that journey been like?
Well, the first time we met, I had just graduated school, and the first thing you photographed was my school final at IMATS, and now here we are, like 19 IMATS later. But the union, was always kind of a goal, and that happened 2.5 years ago, and I got on the new media roster, and then like maybe 4 months ago, I got on the full industry experience roster, and it's been amazing. It's been really cool.
Nix, what was the first IMATS that you ever did?
First IMATS, it was LA, and the funny story is I got Makeup Artist Magazine when it was first coming out. I submitted for Battle of the Brushes in 2002, didn't get in.
I didn't get in either.
Are you
we
serious?
both submitted and didn't get in. So there is hope if you don't get in.
You know who also came in second? Arian.
Really?
Arian came in second in LA.
It's amazing.
So I tell Michael, and I'm like, yeah, it was always like I wanted to get in, and I didn't get accepted, and then I ended up going with one of my sponsors finally, and it was, I remember that IMATS because I saw Dick Smith there walking the aisles, and I wanted to go and say hi, but I was just so nervous. I was like, I'll just catch him next time he goes by, and to this day, that's the one thing I regret at IMATS is seeing somebody and not just being like, you're an inspiration, you're amazing, and just, so now, when somebody goes by and I see them, it's like Mike Moreno goes by and I'm like, dude, I love what you do every Halloween, and, so I'm that guy. I'm like,
But no, I think that's exactly what you should do. And thank you for saying that, because how many IMATS have you been at where you were like, oh, next year I'll talk to them, and then there is no next year?
Yeah. People on Instagram message us. They're like, hey, so I got IMATS doing a demo and I wanted to say hi, and, I was just too nervous. I'm like, come say hi. That's what we're there for, is to ask questions of what we're doing and being like, hey,
How did you guys first work together? How did you meet? I think the story of how you met is interesting.
Well, it's funny, the ironies in this world. One of Chloe's best friends, her other best friend,
Hi, Brad.
is a contortionist, and I was working a Super Bowl party in Indianapolis, and she was performing. I did her makeup, and she was like, I just saw you on Face Off. And a friend of mine is a makeup artist, and she's a fan. Will you sign something for her? And I was like, sure. And I butchered Chloe's name, dyslexic,
and wouldn't fix it.
Yeah,
she was like, I'd asked him to fix it. He wouldn't fix it.
And a couple of years after that, Chloe made it on Face Off, and I saw her show, and then I saw her at New York IMATS, and her demo was amazing. And I was like, hey, I saw what you did, and you're an amazing artist, and also meeting you. And a friend of ours, Kimber, came into LA to meet up for lunch, and Chloe was there, and a friend of mine, Josh Council, a makeup artist in Hong Kong for a theme park, needed another makeup artist, and it was last minute, and I gave him 3 names. Chloe was one of them, and Chloe got hired on, and...
Yeah, he sent me a Facebook message and was like, can you come to Hong Kong in 3 days? And I was like, I guess. For 2 months, and then, yeah.
We spent, I think, 3 months working together side by side and just kind of hit it off. It was her style and personality and, matched mine, and pretty much became best friends since then.
Would you both talk about how you both became makeup artists? Because, what's interesting is at first glance, you wouldn't say your styles complement each other. But as I was saying, there's a great picture we shot in IMATS New York of a vampire these guys did, and I remember Michael flew you out, didn't he? Overnight flew you out.
Yeah, we
to come
decided
do
2 days before, because I had texted Michael Key, and I was like, hey, have a great weekend in New York, and I hope you guys do well, and I wish I could be there. And he was like, do you want to come? And so I was like, yeah. And called him. I was like, why don't we do something? And picked up some Vfx pieces, and we did it.
So how did your style develop?
I'm sorry, what was that?
How did your style develop as a makeup, and how did you become a makeup artist?
See, it's interesting, because I live in Orlando, Florida, and in high school, Joe Blasco was a few miles away, and one of their makeup artists came to our school to show some makeup stuff for the drama club. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I've always been fascinated with makeup and the transition and being able to play a different character. And I was a summer and I was looking for a job. I was 17 years old and this year-round haunted house had opened up. And it looked like Castle Grayskull, and it was a $4 million haunted house. And I went in for an interview, and they're like, we need some young performers to kind of run around. And I was like, this is great. And they would airbrush me. And this is before airbrushing was even really a thing. And they airbrush, yeah. We didn't have the airbrushes back then. But no, there was an artist by the name of Eric Molinaris, and he helped build out the event. And he would airbrush murals on the walls and stuff. And then they're like, why don't you do this for makeup? So he brought the airbrushing into the makeup aspect. And we had this animatronic in the haunt in the very last scare to where he's in an electric chair and you're a group that kind of sends him to his death and the lights go off and a performer runs out and chases them. And they're like, oh, you look like you have a similar body build, so we'll, airbrush you from waist up to match the dummy. And yeah, they airbrushed me and I thought it was the coolest thing and was fascinated by it. Bill McCoy, the makeup artist there, I was like, listen, I love this stuff. Like, how do I get into it? He's like, buy an airbrush and I'll show you some stuff. And I start playing around doing airbrush tattoos for high school football games. And then I was doing body painting and then, learn the makeup. And that was the thing. I remember Blasco being a school around the corner and it was like so expensive to do. And I was like, I can't afford to do this. And I didn't have anything planned. And they're like, we see that you're hardworking and eager. And he's like, anything you want to learn, I'll teach you. And I had friends, my friend, Kimber and Kim here, they sat in my chair and like, go ahead and, use me as a canvas and kind of, play. So I was fortunate enough that I had people to help guide me and I had people willing to model for me. And I wanted to do the school route, but for me, mine was different. I went to the library and got, Richard Corson's stage makeup book, and there wasn't YouTube back then or the internet, so it was old school VHS and books and that want to learn makeup, and kind of became my thing. So it's like people ask me, like, do you go to school? And I'm like, wasn't able to go to school, but I had that passion to want to become a makeup artist, and so the Halloween thing and the body paint thing became mine.
And what was your first experience of being a makeup artist?
I was like 14 and kind of my parents were like, what do you want to do with your life? And I was like, I want to be a makeup artist, and I think initially they were like, oh, we're not going to just send you to cosmetology school because you don't know what else to do with your, it was like, I don't think they had grasped yet what it really was. But my mom took me to Blanche McDonald to do a tour and I just fell in love with it.
Are you Canadian?
Yeah, I have dual.
I have dual.
Yeah. And then, things happened and I moved back to Austin to live with my dad and kind of got into culinary and wanted to be a pastry chef and did that for a bit and then was like, what I really want to do is makeup. So I started looking at schools and applied to school, saved up all the money. 2 months before I was supposed to go, I got hit from a rollerblader, like from the back, walking down a hill and like broke my collarbone. So spent all my money like getting better, and then my 21st birthday I was like, well, I really want to go to IMATS, so that was my birthday present to myself. Came out to IMATS LA the year that Rick Baker did the keynote and just like cried and was like, this is where I want to be.
Was that the year that Gary did the morning and Rick did the afternoon?
Yeah.
That was a great year, wasn't it? That was a great year.
Yeah.
What's so inspiring about both your stories is it's about determination. How important is that resolve to just do it? Because there must have been many times where both of you were like, you know what, forget it. Like, this is way too hard.
But there never was. I never wake up in the morning and I'm like, oh, I gotta go to work. It's definitely like, oh, it's 3 o'clock in the morning and like, this isn't like my favorite thing ever right now. But it's like, I love what I do so much that there is no doing anything else. There was never, this isn't gonna work, because it had to work,
I think it's part of why we get along so well and, why we consider each other best friends, because, Chloe drives to the airport, picks me up, and as soon as we're in the car, we're talking about, what we've created, what we want to do, and it's, we live, eat, and breathe it, and, to meet somebody else who's just as passionate and as crazy as you are. This last couple of weeks, it's literally been
every day,
nonstop every day, and it's like, why try to get the Pax and alcohol paint off your hands because tomorrow it's going to be, right back into it. And it's great to meet somebody else that understands what your vision is and, wants to work just as hard to do it. So
I always feel like the great gift about I'm on the periphery of what you do, but it's like you start a conversation that never stops. It just goes on and on for years and years and years. And I often find, like a lot of the older makeup artists that we know, love and respect, they have that passion, don't they? The passion is everything.
I think you have to in this industry. And I talked a couple days ago and they said, what would you say to young artists? And I said, if you really want to do this, you really have to love it and you really have to put the work in and because it isn't glamorous and it is hard and it is, but it's like super rewarding as well.
My wife always says you have to love it because it doesn't always love you back.
Yeah.
Like you have to really love it.
Yeah.
And and it's like it's almost like you've got a disease, the disease of makeup. You have to do makeup no matter what.
When we're not I think both of us, when we're not working, like we get depressed and like it's really hard and like you have to kind of always keep going and like, keep doing things.
And talk about, like, I love your collaboration. So how do you guys collaborate? Who will one of you just say, I've got this idea, let's do it? And do you have a shorthand now?
It's weird because we collaborate, I think, every third piece because I think our styles are different. Chloe's is, I think more
Organic.
Towards the film and realistic, and mine's more, say, cartoony, avant-garde, but it's different. But then when we do collaborate, it's this kind of ping pong game to where we create something together, but it's it's an equal balance of just back and forth. And the eye for each other is great. Because like that situation at IMATS where I was questioning what I was doing, I'm like, Chloe, come look, what do you think? She gives that honest opinion, but I don't know, it just
happens. Or we did Gucci, we did their international campaign 2 years ago, and he was like, I got the call for that, and he was like the first person I called because I knew that I needed him to come out here to help me with it, and even on those days it was like I set all the looks and the concepts and everything, but he knows how I work and he was able to just like do it.
We call our relationship like Tammy and Howard, and it's like, I'm your Tammy. And there's times where like we're wearing the like same striped shirt, which they do, because I think it's just one of those things where you get so in sync with somebody that there's times where like she doesn't even have to say anything, and I'm already one step ahead, and I'm like handing her the brush, and,
that's the dream relationship, isn't it, in this business? That's also the business that also saves people a lot of money and time. So talk about so you guys, you did 3 demos this weekend and you did one together.
No, I did. He did 3 and I did 1.
One. Can you discuss what you did and why? And can you talk about how you make those choices about what you're going to do at IMATS?
You hope and pray that something comes to you, and sometimes it doesn't come to you till the week before, and sometimes it comes to you 6 months before.
But you've done such advanced work. I mean, the typewriter, the Frankenstein you did. You did the Frankenstein and the Bride.
Tanner did the Bride.
But that Frankenstein was amazing. How much time did you put in thinking like, okay, this is my demo?
For this year?
Well, and I think that's the thing that's funny is because we've done how many IMATS every year. We're like, 8th year, and we're like, after the stress and everything's done, we're like, that's the last one. Like, we can't do it again. And then we end up doing it the next year. And I think to myself, I'm like, I had a whole year to plan for this.
And it's like the week before, and you're like
2 weeks out. Yeah, you're like
up all night, like just like.
There should be like somebody should document a few artists that do the IMATS just to see the craziness of the build up to it. Because
did you cry in the shower this year?
No. Don't cry. My guidelines are running. But the question with how do you come up with the concepts? This year was probably one of my favorite years for IMATS, and I was at Aaron's and Mike's Halloween party, and a bunch of big names, amazing makeup artists all come in makeup. You never know who's who because people are in makeup, but there was an artist there by the name of Blake Armstrong, and he's a makeup artist, but he also does pen and ink. Mm-hmm. And he was dressed as Bjork 2 years ago, and I'm a big fan of Bjork. And I was like, oh my God, you're amazing. So I started following him. And then I didn't realize who he was or who his art was until later on. And then he was at Aaron's party again this year. And I was like, I just want to say I love your pen and ink drawings. They're just amazing. And he's like, I love your body art. And he's like, we need to collaborate. And I was like, let's collaborate. This is in October. I was like, IMATS. So I saw one of his pieces for an art show that he's got coming up. It was this red devil girl.
Oh, I love that piece.
And the way that he paints it, it's done with pen and then watercolored, and they look shiny. So I was like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna sculpt a prosthetic. I'm gonna do a cowl, and then I'm gonna paint the body to look like your picture. And then I was at Orlando, and they had a picture of the Blue Man Group, and their faces are all shiny. So I talked to the friend, and they're like, oh, they use Miron grease paint. I was like, oh, interesting. I was like, I wonder if I can use this and do a whole entire body. So I called Mira and I was like, listen, I want to do a demo on Pro Night. And they were like, all right, let's do it. What do you need product-wise? And they're like, well, can you send me some grease paint? They're like, yeah, we'll send you over a pod. And I was like, I kind of need more. And they're like, what do you need more grease paint for? And I was like, I need just to try something. So I called Chloe and I'm like, hey, listen, I'm going to do this piece. I'm going to need your help. And my typewriter from last year is a makeup artist, and I was like, hey, can I, would you be interested in modeling? She's like, after last year, like anything you need. And I was like, we're gonna do grease paint. She's like, wait, grease paint? I was like, just trust me, like it's gonna be great.
I get, and the box of grease paint shows up at my house. I'm like, what are you doing, dude?
She's like, I think they shipped you the wrong thing because there's like 12 cakes of grease paint here at the house. And I'm like, no, this is what we need. So Kelly comes to the booth and glues the prosthetic, put the cowl on. Blake does a drawing just for the night of the piece. And then this is one of those moments where I had a question of doubt. And I'm like, what am I doing? It's Pro Night and I've got a box of grease paint. Everyone's like, gonna laugh at me. And we bring Kelly over and she opens up her robe. I give her some. She covers over the areas that she needs to cover. And I'm brushing it on. And it's now brushing, and then like more people are building up around, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm starting to sweat, and the color looks too dark, and I'm starting to get nervous, and I call Chloe over, and I'm like, Chloe, what am I doing? Like, this probably wasn't the best choice, and I'm having all this doubt, and I'm sweating. Just all right, we're past the point, like, can't take it off. We need to get her photographed, so put on some gloves. Chloe starts scooping out the cakes, put it in my hand, rubbed it in my hand, and then we just start putting it on the body.
Was it from the heat of your body that was making it actually go on onto her skin?
Rather than a brush.
The brush was too cold or something. Was that what it was?
Yeah, and it's grease paint, so it's like once it starts getting to heat up, it just starts kind of sliding through and slide it through, and she's covered in grease paint, and she's just standing there like this, and I'm just like.
And we're covered in it, and it's
everyone's like, hey, how's it going? You're like, hey, and we're like, oh God, that guy was wearing a white shirt. Like, it's like, don't hug anybody. So yeah, we take it on her, and I'm just like, yeah, it looks good. And Chloe comes over, and it's that one step ahead. She comes over, has a cup of mineral oil and a brush, and brushes it on. And as soon as she puts that first brush stroke of the mineral oil, it just becomes wet and shiny. And it was at that moment I was like, oh, thank God, like this is actually gonna work. And we set up the makeup lights. They have these long lights, and we set it up around her so that the light was so bright and so harsh on it that it would give that shiny look to it. And I step back and the crowd's going crazy, and I look at Blake and I'm like, you're taking another artist's work and you're trying to make it a reality. And he was just like you could see in his face, and I was like, oh, thank God, like.
But I think every year at IMATS, and even like on set, there's always a moment when you're doing a big makeup that you're like, do I actually know how to do makeup? Like, am I a good makeup artist?
I call it the moment of complete despair. I mean, you confront yourself in some way, and you go like, okay, I can do this.
But that's the process too.
But I think we actually kind of like that moment. I used to say I hated it, but I don't think we hate it. I think we kind of love it anyway. And what about you? What was it like for you to do your demo this year?
It was a mad dash to the end. Again, I had 6 months, but work and things happened, and so did it all in about 10 days, I think. And I had a really amazing team. We were just in the garage and just kind of building it. And I had I saw Overlord. I don't know if you saw that film. With all the mutants and stuff, and I was just like super inspired by that, and some of the American Horror Story promo for Apocalypse was really beautiful, and it was just kind of all like in my brain, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do with it, but I knew that I kind of wanted this dystopian thing, and I just started building on it, and it just kind
She was a great model as well.
yeah, she's
She
incredible.
was awesome.
It's gonna be a big year for her.
How many of you are interested in demoing at IMATS? Okay, can you tell them what's the process? How do you get to demo?
It's interesting because for me, the way I approach anything is, Miron had the grease paint, and I was like, I'm familiar with their product, so I went on the internet and found their email address, and I go, hey, I love your product, and this is what I want to do. Do you have any openings for, IMATS for a demo? And just message them and be like, this is what I want to do, and did my whole pitch. And, they were like, all right, let's do it.
Okay, what about you?
My first demo I did with the school, and I don't know how they work here as far as choosing or whatever, but that I remember how like important it was to me, and then after that I went and I did Face Off, and then when I was done with Face Off I was like, okay, what can I do with my 5 minutes of so I decided that I wanted to get sponsored, and I reached out to the companies that I loved the most. And I was with Cryon for a while, and I've been with Iwata for 7 years, and so.
I have to say, one of the things that both of you have done is you both so transcended. We can talk about it kind of that being on a TV show had pluses and negatives, and you guys have so far transcended. I mean, I even kind of forget, which I think is what you probably want now,
Oh,
right?
for mine, yeah, definitely.
So
Everyone knows I was barely on Face Off.
But you were on another show,
Oh yeah, Naked Vegas.
Naked Vegas. Can you talk about overcoming, because I felt you both came out and were like, I'm going to so show you who I really am.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, I had mentioned this the other day of it's about, I don't regret doing the show. I think I did the show at a really great time in my career, and I did it early, and, but getting out of it, I wanted to not be Chloe from Face Off. I wanted to have my own style and have my own work. And I think I fought really hard to find my own style in myself before I could show everybody else what my style was. And, I kind of, if you look back at my work even through IMATS through the years, it's grown, and it's...
Unbelievably. Yeah. You're like different artists. I think that in the last 2 years, both of you have hit a zenith of work that, I mean, you're both a draw now. Do you know what I mean? You actually are people, right? I mean, people come to see what you guys do. I mean, that's sort of an unbelievable thing. But it's not kind of enough, right? You both want the film careers.
Yeah.
Now.
For me, it's just being able to show something other than, the body paint, but...
Well, because you told me you've been laying pieces for 20 years.
Yeah, you can give me a prosthetic, cut the edge off of it, and I can cabo it and blend it and color match it. But people, I'm kind of pigeonholed to where they're like, you're a great body painter. I'm like, I'm a great artist. And it's just, being able to show them that. And that's the other part of it. Same thing with the face-off thing. It's like after that whole thing, I was a second one eliminated on the second season.
Right before the body paint challenge.
Right before the body and then Haunted House one. But, I was hard on myself after that, and, it was tough, but it was also that situation happening that made me work harder, because then I felt like I really had something to prove. And everything works out, in the long run. I ended up getting on another show called Naked Vegas with Sci-Fi, and so it's like there's times in your life when you're like, man, this is like not working, and like, what am I doing? And then later on you find out that all that stuff, ends up working its way out, eventually. So, but real quick, it's funny, you and your wife inspired me for my typewriter piece that you guys did, the documentary with Kazoo.
Yes.
And Kazoo is like this. Yeah. So I watched your film, and I remember seeing the story about how he had gotten started and everything with Dick Smith and doing the makeup, and he did a likeness makeup of Dick Smith, and then he did it again, and then he did it again, and then he did it again, and then you see where he's at now. And I remember thinking to myself, and it was like this obsession of perfection, and I just kept thinking, I was like, it's kept just kind of going through my head, and that inspired my typewriter piece, and it was, just somebody thinking of somebody at the keyboard, just typing it over and over again, becoming their mantra.
We have a clip with Guillermo del Toro. He starts laughing. He goes like, at one point, Kazu did like a number of his fellow students. So there were like 10 or 12 Dick Smiths walking around. Like he turned everyone into Dick Smith that he could. But he was literally that obsessive.
Yeah.
It's like the Matrix.
Yeah.
I think you have to be, though, as an artist. I mean, I think that's kind of natural to have that. And I think, a lot of times I'll finish a makeup and I have a moment where I'm like, God, I love this makeup. Like, I really did it. And then I'll walk away for 5 minutes. I'll come back. It sucks. And it every time it happens. Sometimes it happens a day later, sometimes. But it's always that want to be better to and I mean, as I progress as an artist, there's more things that I like about my work. But, it's...
I totally understand that. And in the end, it's what you do, it's not what you didn't do.
Right.
You have to just make work. Do we have any questions?
Can I ask you about your guys' project you were working on yesterday with RBFX?
Yeah.
Shenanigans.
Do not use toothpaste to bond
Oh,
your edges.
We'll tell you about that in a minute.
I think RBFX is a great company. They do really amazing prosthetics and have great artists that work for them. And I think, especially when you're in a very tight turnaround on a film, and they're great to have that. So Roland reached out to me and said, I've got this makeup, these prosthetics, and do you want to do something with it? And I said, yeah, absolutely. So just for the catalog, and he happened to still be in town because he keeps changing his flight. And it was fun to just kind of have, it was very relaxed and fun, and I,
Yeah, so
I got to hear this toothpaste story.
so if you follow RBFX on Instagram, you'll see Wayne Anderson, an amazing sculptor, and he's there sculpting, and Roland comes around the camera, and Wayne pulls out the Windex and starts smoothing out everything, and then cut over to another guy in the shop pouring up, plaster, and he's got apple juice, and he's sprinkling it into his thing. And I remember going into the lab at Universal the next day, and you hear a conversation. They're like, "Oh, Wayne uses Windex for smoothing out his pieces," and I was like, "All right, maybe the pneumonia and it helps smooth it out." And then it was when I saw the apple juice, and I was like, "No," I was like, "You're not pulling one over on me." I was like, they were just kind of goofing off, messing around. So yesterday when we were in there, I was joking about blending out the edges to the piece, which you don't really need to because the edges are that nice. I was like, does anyone go to the grocery store and give me some frosting, and I'll use frosting and it'll look like Cabo. And they're like, we got toothpaste. I'm like, perfect. So, Chloe's there and she's airbrushing, and then, the camera pans around, and then I've got my spatula and just very serious, and I'm just spatulaing it out. And we posted up and we're giggling about it, and then the last 24 hours,
everybody's been like, what does the toothpaste do? And I'm like, no, don't do that.
It has to be pressed. Like, nothing else really works. It's just a good feather off. So, yeah, we're going to have to, I've gotten so many messages that I have to post something and be like, guys, we were just kind of messing around. If not, I'm buying stock and crush.
Another question.
Earlier you said something about ears for the vampire piece.
Yes.
So this is how amazing these RBFX pieces are as well. We got RBFX ears for our vampire that we did, and the model was she's a performance artist and she's amazing, and so we put the ears on her, and she was like, and they're like $150 ears that you put on for 4 hours and then we take them off, and she was like, can I keep them on? And I was like, I mean, we don't really recommend it. We like to remove all the prosthetics. And
well, she wants to keep everything on.
Yeah. And so we settled on, okay, we'll give you some remover, and you can keep the ears on. Thinking she was just going to go out and then go home and take them off. So I get a message from her 5 days later, it's a photo of her still in the ears. And she was like, I love them so much. I don't want to take them off. And they still looked
Yeah, they look
fine.
Wow.
They still looked fine.
That should be an ad
Yeah, right?
for their pieces.
Tell us it's 5 is a great glue.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Another question.
If you're doing like gluing down prosthetics on someone who has like a latex allergy and they can't use like the latex
The
or
foam?
the Prozane, how would you get the edges down? Because I tried to use the silicone glue and it did not work.
Did you, so you could either do Prozane transfers.
She's allergic to the Prozane.
Oh, God, right.
Yeah.
Then encapsulated silicone pieces with a silicone glue, either Tosas 5 or Westmore FX or Silabond. But it probably didn't stick because it wasn't.
Because some of the edges kind of not laying down right.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And I do Universal Studios Grinchmas, and we'll do 4 Who Knows prosthetics in a matter of a couple hours, and you'll do it every day. And I've done 12 years of Grinchmas, and every day you'll get a different performer, and you'll have different people who, like, one person can't do any alcohol on their face because their face is too sensitive. Another person can do it because of latex. There's 2 things you can do. One of them, just find a different model, The second thing is, I think a misconception that people have sometimes is that they'll go into makeup one day and the next day they come back and they're like, my face is completely red. And then you go, okay, maybe they have a latex allergy. A lot of times, 50% of the times, it's the removal process. People will want to get out of makeup really quick, and they'll either rip it off their face themselves, or they're using a product. They're like, oh, use Super Soft to take off the piece. Then they go home, and they're not washing their face, not moisturizing. So that was something that over my years of doing the prosthetics, you find out that a lot of times it's not the actual piece on their face. It's the removal process and the skin care after.
We'll do one more question.
Do you have any fun projects coming up that you're excited to work on?
He has this crazy idea for a New York IMATS that is a ton of work, and I'm still mulling it over.
Here's my pitch, Michael T. There was this idea of a piece that I did a few years ago. I'm a big Warhol fan, and New York has a museum where they have Warhol's Campbell soup cans, and he has 32 cans that he painted. And I decided that I would try to convince Chloe. I've convinced Chloe into coming to New York and painting 32 models as Warhol with the soup cans.
Oh, wow.
And picking up a few extra local New York body painters.
Like 30.
Probably.
You have to talk to Mud New York.
Yeah.
Go to the school and...
Yeah, well, that's the other thing is, I need people to help base out, to put wigs on and, pasties and all that, but I think it'd be great to see, 32 models, male and female, from, 18 and up to come and model, then maybe go out to Times Square and, walk around. But
That would be pretty cool.
that's my pitch, Michael Key.
Just one last question. These guys are going out into the workplace. You guys are living... Your generation is a generation that really speaks to them because you're just, you're ahead of them. The generation in front of you is has a totally different career experience than you. What advice would you give them going into the marketplace?
You go first.
I think the most important thing is the students that I meet once they get out of school. You're like, okay, I've learned everything I need to learn, and you go out and you're kind of like, now I'm ready to work. Well, it's a matter of figuring out what it is what kind of work it is that you want to do, and then going into that field and just kind of being present for it. I always tell people, make sure you have a business card. If you don't have a business card, tell them you ran out instead of I don't have one. And it's just being present. Surround yourself around the people that are doing the things that you want to do. And Roland was laughing at me yesterday for sweeping his floors, and he's like, you sweeping my floors for? And I'm like, if I really wanted to work in your shop, I'd be, knocking at your door or sending you emails, calling you up, being like, listen, like, I want to come work for you. And then as the day comes up where he's like, I need somebody to come and sweep my floors or open up these molds, you're going to be one of the first people on his mind. So it's just go to places that, you know, like IMATS and network and talk to people and be in it.
I would also say I think it's really important to be a well-rounded artist. You know, just because you want to be an effects artist, like, you better be able to also do, you know, beauty and men's grooming and at least be able to style hair, and because it makes you that much more hireable. I mean, yeah, I do effects, but I also do a lot of like straight makeup as well. And I've worked really hard to be well-rounded. And, you know, if you want to also, I could do every single thing in the shop. I know how to make molds. I know how to, you know, cast pieces. I know how to sculpt. I don't, not because that's what my focus is, but I think it's important to know how everything's done so that when, like, you are on set or you're, you know, and you get this silicone piece and it's not working because, you know, it got delaminated or whatever, you know why it's not working, and you can go back to whoever made it and go, this is what's not working, you know.
Oh, and evolution. It's evolving. It's when a new product comes out, like, it's scary to try something new. I remember when alcohol palettes first came out, and I'm like, I like my RCMA palette, and I'm just gonna, you know, use this. And yeah, it's great, but it's also kind of like stepping out of your, you know, boundaries. And I think that's part of how you stay in it, is that you have to just be open and try new things, even if they are terrifying.
One of the things I think both of you do, and then we go back, but one of the things you're both very brave at is you also use really old techniques, really new techniques. I think part of the thing from becoming a practitioner of makeup to becoming a makeup artist is a person that can actually go, what is the right tool for this job? I mean, stepping into the grease paint thing that's a big move, but it's a great move. It's great that someone did that, right?
Yeah.
And that's what makes you great artists. Thank you so much, guys. You've been incredible. Will you spend a few minutes chatting with these guys afterwards? Thank you.